Alright, everyone. You may be wondering, why the hell are you doing this? Why are you listening to the Beatles again? Why would I dip myself back into this well? I've already done all of the albums. I've already done the ranking video. Why would I ever choose to dive back into this well? And the answer is, I have grown a lot over the past 2 years of me listening to music. My opinions have shifted on a lot of things. I have much more of a wide musical vocabulary. I have listened to a lot more music. And also, I just feel more confident in a speaker, as a speaker, sorry. Ironic that I fuck up that sentence. I feel more confident as a speaker and more confident in my ability to give these albums an actually decent review. Now, of course, before I get into this, I do have to say that these reviews are subjective. These are the opinions of someone who doesn't listen to 60s music that much. These are the opinions of someone who isn't the craziest on the aesthetics of the 60s. This is someone who isn't, just... I don't gravitate towards this era all that much. I find the 70s to be where I really start getting into pop music. So... I'm obviously not going to be the target audience for this, but I still want to give it a properly fair shot. I still want to give it the chance where I listen to these albums in chronological order, now having the context of watching the anthology. I'm working my way through that right now. I watched the first 2 episodes, so I have the context for these first 2 albums that I'm recording in this first session here. And with that being said, I think I can just get started. Yeah, we're starting with Please Please Me, of course. This album came out in 1963. It is 14 tracks, 32 minutes. Only 32 minutes for a 14-track album. That's kind of wild. Lots of big hits on this album, most notably Twist and Shout, of course. I remember that song being pretty great. With that being said, I'm going to get straight into this shit. Track 1, I Saw Her Standing There.
1, 2, 3, 4. Well, she was just 17.
They made short songs to appeal to the TikTok format. Exactly. They had hindsight of the TikTok to come. Okay, so my experience with the anthology thus far has been, it was really cool to see how the band got started. It's been really cool to see their evolution. It's been really cool to see how the band have kind of come into their own up to this point. But I think that when they started off, they sounded pretty damn rough. They were decent performers, they were fantastic stage presences, but as musicians, as actual, songwriters and everything, I think that the Beatles were a far cry from the strongest to begin. I think that a lot of their performance sounded quite bad. I think that a lot of their appeal came purely from stage presence, and that's kind of apparent with a track like I Saw Her Standing There. This song, it's fun. It's silly. I like how bouncy and fast-paced it is, but I will say that the actual parts being played, the writing, the performances themselves are a little... whatever. I don't hate this. I really do not hate this, but immediately I'm just kind of like, okay, we're taking a lot from 50s rock and roll, which is also an era that I'm not the craziest on, and we're putting a slightly more pop-tinged spin on it, but in a way that still doesn't really appeal to me all that much, on top of having some performances that do feel a little amateurish, in a charming way, to be honest. I do think that there is a lot of charm coming from how youthful and how imperfect a lot of this is, but it's definitely not making for an experience that I'm head over heels for so far with this song. Like, you get some hints of some pretty cool stuff. I like the streaming. I like the energy being put across here, definitely. For a dancing song, yeah, I imagine this would have been good for, getting on the dance floor in the 60s. They were aura maxing in the 60s, yeah. Yeah, when Chivo and Shaden were recommending I watch the anthology, a big draw was they were very convinced that watching it would drastically change my opinions of the first handful of albums because, of course, on my initial listens, I was not the craziest on the early era of the Beatles. It was only really once we got to the Help and Rubber Soul era that I started caring about their music all that much. And I have to say, watching the anthology... seems like my opinions are going to stay the exact same. Again, it's very cool to see how the band came together, how they had many lineup changes. They started as a 5-piece. Ringo wasn't even in the mix. And then, of course, after performing in Berlin and coming back to the UK, needing a new drummer. Ringo comes into the mix and they make this album. I think it's very cool to see how they got there and how much they changed as an act, how much they changed as performers and stuff. But that doesn't mean I particularly enjoy the music to any higher degree. I still have to say this feels like just some standard 50s adjacent rock and roll, some decent performances. I think some ideas in here that are pretty cool, like how high octane and high energy this track is. I like the constant shouting throughout this track, just how much they are putting across feeling like troubled youths. Is that the way I put it across? Rowdy youths, I guess, would be a better way of describing it. Just, you know, coming across as rowdy and loud and obnoxious young people. And I think that attitude comes across very well on this song. However, I'm not crazy on this sonic aesthetic. I don't know if it's just this particular mix that I'm listening to. The song doesn't sound all that good. I imagine it wouldn't have obviously been like the most high quality recording in the early 60s for a new band like this, but still, it does sound particularly unpleasant in terms of its production. And also just this song itself just feels like it's a lot of conventions being portrayed here and like it isn't the most standout thing in the world, which I guess you would expect with a 60s debut album. I would give this song a solid 5. It's okay. There's some elements I really like about this track. There's lots of stuff that I really admire about how the Beatles present themselves here, but the actual song itself is just a little uninteresting to me. Again, the banking on me watching the anthology for these early albums to grow on me, I don't think worked. I have to say that this opening track is not making it seem like I'm going to feel particularly stronger about this album than I did when I listened to it the first time. Next up we have Misery.
The world is treating me bad. Misery.
Oh, the misery. Everyone wants to be their enemy, exactly.
For sure. Can't she see she'll always be the only one, only one.
The piano is very cheesy. The piano is incredibly cheesy. Cute, kind of fun, a little charming, but still, same as the previous song, just a sonic aesthetic that I don't find myself particularly drawn to. I don't know, I think that the performances here do provide something that is a little more serious, that is a little more mellow, and I appreciate the band showing with these first 2 tracks that they can do both the rowdy, rambunctious shit, as well as getting a little more mellow, a little more calm, but still, it is, again, kind of seeped in a lot of conventions of a lot of stuff at the time. Obviously working it into a little bit more of a brighter and more poppy space, but I don't know. I kind of feel like I am having the same experience with this album as I did the first time, where it's just like, it's charming. I cannot sit here and say I hate this in the slightest. I would even go as far as to say this is decently enjoyable. It's just the furthest thing from my cup of tea possible, and I don't know. I kind of wish that I liked this. This seems like the type of thing that if you enjoy it, it's like the most fun, goofy, charming thing ever. But for me, I'm just seeing this as a little, I don't know, just a little standard in terms of a lot of other stuff that I had heard, like from the late 50s and all of those influences that are being brought over to this. It feels like they aren't really packaging them in a way that makes them any more interesting to me. And me being someone who isn't the craziest on 50s rock and roll and 50s blues, it kind of makes it so this is by default at an arm's length. I would give this I give this one like a low 6. I like this one a little bit more than the first one. Beatles Got You Into Music. This used to be your favorite album. See, I fucking wish that I had that experience with this. I wish that I was able to connect with this sort of thing, because people who love like late 50s, early 60s rock and blues, it seems like the most hype thing ever to people who like it. And I just have to sit here and be like, man, I can't click with it. I cannot click with this. And I go to him. I'm next. That acoustic sounds really nice. Also, they recorded this in a day, didn't they? They recorded this whole album in one day, right? I remember that from the anthology where, it was George Martin called him up and he was like, hey, come over. I'm going to give you a day to just knock out a fuck ton of songs, as many songs as you guys got. And they just came in and they did a whole bunch of different alternate takes for these tracks, right? Yeah. That's impressive. Yeah, they were very influenced by Roy Orbison, apparently. Oh yeah, Twist and Shout, his voice is fucked. And you can kind of tell some of his singing throughout this does run a little flat. And again, I'm not sitting here and like trying to shit on him or anything like that. The fact that he's doing all this while he has a cold is immensely impressive. That one wasn't taken in one take. I remember from the anthology, they did a whole bunch of takes of Twist and Shout, I'm pretty sure. And his voice by the end was completely blown out. I think so, DHD Bling. I think that George Harrison might have given a handful of songs, but it was mainly Paul and John on the songwriting front. Okay. Here's what I am going to say about this. I feel basically the same on this album as I did before so far. I'm seeing this as being charming. I'm seeing this as being enjoyable, but nothing that's like mind-blowing or anything that I feel like I'm connecting to on any deeper level besides like this is a decent product of its time. That's what this album is so far. It is a solid product of its time. Now, what I will say about this album is that the fact that it's cruising in the 6 out of 10 range so far for me doesn't mean it's like, oh, the album's just like, it's okay. It has so many glaring issues with it, though. It's more so like the Beatles were given one day to establish themselves, and they are giving it their all and doing the best they can with what they have. And the fact that they're able to reach a 6 out of 10 for me is fucking insane. Like, knowing the context under which this album is made doesn't make me like the music anymore, but it makes me appreciate what goes behind the music even more and makes me see this album as maybe not a feat that I enjoy any more than I did before, but a feat that I can sit here and confidently say I am more impressed by. I think that the first time around that I heard this, obviously not knowing the context, it was just kind of like, okay, this is some okay 50s rock and roll influenced pop music that doesn't really go too far beyond that. And now hearing it now, it's like, it's still okay. It's still nothing that's too impressive, but the amount of heart, the amount of passion that's going into this thing, being given a single day to do this thing, it's impressive. This song still would get like a solid 6 for me. I'm not head over heels for this. I am far from loving this so far, but I respect the hell out of this album. I do genuinely respect the living hell out of this album. Chains.
Chains, my baby, yeah.
No, I don't think it kneecaps the potential of the group at all. I think more so that it's obvious at this point that they have not come into their own. The Beatles are still very, very young at this point. 1963? Yeah, 1963. They're all like still in their early 20s and stuff like that. So at this point, they aren't going to be the most confident songwriters because obviously their songs hadn't been presented in a wide release format this way. They aren't going to be the most adventurous because a lot of their influences simply come from what they grew up listening to, and that was old jazz, and it was like 50s rock and roll stuff. And then you can see them evolve with their more contemporary influences, like a Bob Dylan, for example. I think that Bob Dylan is a massive game changer moving into the latter half of the Beatles' discography. So I would say this doesn't limit their potential. It's more so that their influences and what they're borrowing from so far is quite limited, and then as they move on throughout the 60s, you can see them taking from other things that massively expands their sound palette and makes them a far more interesting band.
I wanna tell you, pretty baby, I think you're fine. I'd like to love you, but darling, I'm imprisoned by these chains that you can't see.
The cover. There are a handful of covers on this album, I'm pretty sure. I forget which songs are covers and which songs are original. Bob Dylan actually introduced the Beatles to drugs when he offered them part in a hotel room in 64 after he misheard a lyric and I want to hold your hand. Damn. Chains is a kind of fun track. I'd actually give this one like a flat 7. It's got a decent like swung drum beat. I think that the vocal layering, particularly the backing vocals, kind of creates very nice togetherness on this song that, I don't know, makes it feel a little more kinetic and vibrant than the previous tracks. I think that the writing on this track is also like quite the step up, which I think is ironic considering this is one of the covers on the album. I do think that the lyrics on this song were a little bit more engaging than the previous tracks, and you can tell that the Beatles at this point are doing are much better at like reimagining other people's songs than fully coming into their own as writers, creating their own tracks. This song, yeah, it's solid. The first song on the album that I can say I actually did find myself really enjoying, and I don't know. Hopefully there are more songs like this so that my initial score for this album can go up, because I will say that was a genuinely pretty charming track. Boy is up next. But when Fleetwood Mac make a song about chains, it's considered a masterpiece? Exactly. Yes, we got Ringo on vocals here. I mean, it's interesting that Ringo goes full gay on this song. I'll give it that. That song was a little more driving than the previous ones. I kind of like that. I like that this track had a little bit of, I don't know, a little bit of a feeling of a massive forward momentum, especially being driven by, Ringo's vocals, allowing the drums to kind of feel a little more heavy here. I will say that this track of the bunch definitely does feel like you see the most of the Beatles. I feel like, I don't know why, but this song to me felt the most Beatles of the bunch. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just that Ringo has such a fucking distinct voice that immediately was like the most drawing factor to this. But yeah, I did find myself enjoying this song probably the most of the bunch up to this point. That was like a low 7 for me. It was a good shit. All of these songs have gone up in score consecutively so far. You know, maybe by the time we get to Twist and Shout, the album will be at 10 out of 10 territory. You know, we can only hope. We can only hope. Ask me why. Damn, this one's kind of beautiful. I'm loving the laid-back feel of this song. This is like... This one's so satisfying. Like, it's smooth, it's very easy on the ears. Yeah, that was the first song that I can say I actually found myself kind of loving. That's like a flat 8 to me. Good shit. I love the very laid-back, breezy, super easy on the ears sound that track goes for. Kind of a very... I don't know. There's something about that song that feels like being on the beach, you know? I like the kind of cross-stick thing going on with the drums. I like that this track just kind of feels like it's focused solely on absolutely relaxing the listener. It feels like it is trying its hardest to be the most chill song it can be. I think it absolutely succeeds. I love John Lennon's almost like romantic vocal performance here. I love how much he's able to feel like such a calming and charismatic presence over this track at the same time, while still feeling he has that little bit of attitude that's been present throughout the rest of the album up to this point. So it's solid. It does feel a little tacky with some of its elements. Some of these guitar parts feel like they don't match in the slightest, but I'm not going to be too picky when it comes to that song, because I feel like the main elements of that track do genuinely sound pretty delightful. The best of the bunch, easily. Up next we have Ask Me Why. Oh, sorry, Please Please Me. Another one of the more fun songs so far, another flat 7 for me. Yeah, just a fun, rocking track that, again, kind of has that drive and immediacy as some of my favorite songs on the album up to this point. A song where maybe the melodies on the verses can get a little bit stale, but I think that call and response on the chorus is fantastic. I think that the performances here are some of the strongest we've gotten so far, and while I can't say I absolutely love this track, I think that the silliness does make it especially charming in comparison to some of the weakest songs. So yeah, it gets a flat 7 for me. Solid track. Love Me Do.
Love me do. Love me do.
Joel Lee's favorite on the album, huh?
I love you. Someone to love. Someone like you. Love
I will kind of agree that this does feel a little flat. I mean, the harmonica's kind of sweet, but everything else does feel a little, I don't know, just a little colorless. Without the harmonica, it'd be pretty ass. That kind of is the main draw to the song, yeah.
Love me do.
The harmonica is its greatest asset. Yeah, Love Me Do is just a little bit of a colorless kind of bland cut. It's a flat 5 for me. Again, still not bad. I don't think any of the moments on this album have been bad up to this point. But I have to say that that track did feel particularly flat in comparison to everything else. Like, it didn't have that same sense of drive or charm or passion that the previous songs did. It just felt like a fleeting moment in comparison to everything else. Just an in one ear, out the other song, where it felt like even they were phoning it in. Where a lot of these songs have been so passionate, where they have been so hungry to prove themselves and to establish themselves as an important name. This feels like the taking a break in the middle of the day that they had to record this album song. This feels like the tea break of the album. So yeah, flat 5. Easily, well, not easily the weakest of the bunch. I feel like all of these songs have been decent with a great track in the mix, but I will say, solidly, of the bunch so far, my least favorite. Yes, this was in fact their debut single, and I don't know. I remember enjoying this song a little bit more when I heard it in the context of the anthology. But I have to say, in context of the album, where everything else has been so much more exciting or ear grabbing, this song feels particularly drab. Up next, we have "P.S. I Love You."
As I write this letter, send my love to you.
I'm liking the cross-stick stuff that Ringo's doing on this album. The cross-stick stuff's pretty fun. Yeah, I wish there were more Paul-led songs on this album. It's felt a little bit like the John Lennon show so far. Of course, you've had Paul and Ringo taking the lead at points, but I don't know. Paul's my favorite Beatle. Charlie Beatles is pretty much the John Lennon show. Yeah, we could all be thankful Yoko isn't screaming in the background. That would make this an immediate 10 out of 10. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. I wasn't too crazy on this one. It's got a fun cross-stick pattern from Ringo. It's nice to see Paul take the lead here, but I don't know, this track, like the previous one, feels like it lacks that sense of drive and that sense of passion and that sense of youthful chaos that a lot of the stronger songs on the album have. It's okay. I mean, it's got an okay chorus. The verses are very dry, though, and this instrumental just feels, I don't know, again, like the band phoning it in a little bit. Like, this back-to-back run of tracks with Love Me Do and P.S. I Love You feel particularly weak, and I don't know why that is. Maybe they reached a bit of a lull in the middle of their recording day where they were just, like, I don't know, getting too tired or something like that. Hoping it can pick itself up by the end. I'm really hoping it can. Baby It's You up next.
Many nights go by. I sit alone at home and I cry over you. Can't help myself, 'cause baby, it's you. When it's true.
I feel like the streak of songs that I enjoy has passed. This is another one that I don't know, I'm just not feeling. Yeah, we had our run of like a handful of tracks that I was seriously really fucking with, and I feel like I'm gonna have to take what I can get, which is that 4-track run that we had of 7 and aboves. This song, it just finished, and I couldn't tell you anything about it besides the sha-la-las. Everything else about this track just felt like it was retreading a lot of the same ground. A lot of these songs feel, they just feel so samey. It feels like we're getting lots of incredibly similar sonic ideas being presented in ways that don't feel like they provide enough variety to warrant 14 songs of this. I mean, it's not bad still. It is not bad in the slightest, but I can't sit here and say that I'm finding this album interesting at this point. Like, to start with, up until, we got to, oh shit, fucking hell, I got rid of my notepad. For the first half, I was finding this to be at least an interesting listen, but this second half so far has just been a little, I don't know. It's just coming across as kind of samey, and like the band are running out of steam a little bit. Another flat 5 here. Do you want to know a secret?
You'll never know how much I really love you. Listen, do you want to know a secret? Do you want to know a secret?
These melodies, man, they're putting me to sleep. Burt Bacharach, Mac David, and Bonnie Williams are the writers. Okay. Got 3 writers on this one. Oh, this one was written by Lennon? I see. We got conflicting reports in the chat here. Melodically speaking, this song bored me to death. The vocals have been such a back and forth factor throughout this album for me, where some of these tracks have felt melodically incredibly interesting, incredibly explorative, and then you get a song like this that feels like it just sounds like any standard 50s rock and roll melody. Good instrumental on this one, I will say. The nice, subtle, very soft drums throughout this with these, kind of haunting guitars. There's something about this track that feels a little ghostly that I appreciate. But man, in terms of the melody, in terms of the writing, this track feels... It feels like a big ball of air, if that makes sense. It feels like it has this presentation of like a very moody, very kind of haunting track, and then the writing itself is just so flat. Feeling another like a high 5 on this one. Don't think everything has to be groundbreaking to be entertaining. Absolutely, that's why I can definitely say I've enjoyed the album up to this point. It certainly is not reinventing the wheel of rock and roll. It's just the way that the Beatles present it that makes me enjoy it slightly more than I do with actual stuff from the 50s. The way they incorporate these elements and their presences on these songs are definitely presented in a way that appeals to me a little bit more. But also, again, like I've stated so many times, I'm not just a big 50s music guy when it comes to rock, blues, and the pop scene. Like, I'm much more of a jazz guy when it comes to the 50s and 60s. Jazz is just where it's at for me. And the Beatles definitely have some jazz influences, but it's mostly rock and roll and blues. And that era of those two styles just isn't it for me. And that's kind of what keeps this album at an arm's length for me, and why I haven't been loving this.
A taste of honey.
Taste of honey.
Tasting much sweeter than wine. I dream.
Is that Lennon song credited to him and McCartney? Okay.
First kiss, honey. A taste of honey.
Melodically, this sounds like a sea shanty. It's very interesting. This is the first track that has actually grabbed my ears in terms of its melody. This is it's kind of got a surrealist quality. This is really weird.
Tasting much sweeter than wine. Yes,
Time signature switch. Went from 3 to 4. The Beatles are getting progressive with this one. This one's kind of fucking amazing. This is legitimately really cool. That song was fucking amazing. That's a high 8 right there. Melodically speaking, it feels like a sea shanty. The multiple time signature switches between 3 and 4 give this track this weird surrealist, like swirling feeling. I think that those backing vocals are legitimately really haunting, and this track overall has such a nice, moody, kind of brooding feel that, I don't know, it was really enticing to me. That song was fucking incredible. That was really good. Genuinely, I was not expecting to get a song scored that high. That song was fucking... What did I score that on a first listen? I can't imagine I liked it the first time around. Oh no, Taste of Honey, I gave it a 7 on a first listen. I understood that this song had the source the first time around as well. Yeah, that was immaculate. That was the strongest song on the album, and I don't think anything is going to top it. That was legitimately quite immensely impressive. Good shit. I was not expecting to get a song like that on the album, I can't lie. There's a Place. This one was in the anthology. I remember this. They just locked the fuck in for the final 3 songs on this album, dude. Because I already know I like Twist and Shout. High 7, very fun song. Love the call and response between the vocals and the harmonica. I love the very weird melodic directions this track goes, all of the rises and dips that it goes through, the very strange kind of discordant backing vocals that feel like they clash with the leads a lot, but in a way that doesn't feel unsatisfying. It's in a way that actually has to be like scratching my head and trying to figure out why it is they sound like that. I don't know if that was like an intentional choice or not. I'm not trying to sit here and say the Beatles are fucking geniuses for having these backing vocals that sound so different to the lead vocals, but it does legitimately create for a more intriguing track than anything else, than the majority of what we've gotten so far, rather. Yeah, another solid track, and I already know I like Twist and Shout. They locked in for these final 3 songs. They really did. That song was solid as hell. Speaking of which... did indeed ruin his voice with this song. This is at the end of a long recording day while I had a cold. And multiple takes of this song, he blew his voice out, and you can hear it. Anyway, Twist and Shout, I would give a solid 7 to. It's a fun 60s pop track with some great raspy vocals from John, some fun backing vocals as well. I feel like this song is the catchiest of the bunch pretty handily, but also, I don't know, I'm not the craziest on the instrumental on this track per se. I will say that this song does feel a little bit formulaic up to this point, 14 tracks into the album especially, but I don't know. I think that it really is the vocals that carries this to being a solid 7 for me. Good shit. Solid track. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was... Please Please Me by the Beatles. That was my re-listen of this album. Would I say this has grown on me? Very slightly, I would say it has. I think that this album, this time around, is... I don't know, there's something that I found a little bit more charming about this. There's something that I connected to a little bit more. Still wasn't the craziest on it. A lot of the 50s rock and roll aesthetics, a lot of the 50s blues aesthetics that are being brought over still don't speak to me personally. But I do have to say that this album does have some legitimately catchy tracks. I will say that there are a lot more songs that I found to be enjoyable this time around. I think that the Beatles as performers were a little bit more appealing to me this time around as well. And I think that just the knowledge this time that they recorded this all in one day did make it a little bit more of a commendable effort that I will say does genuinely read as a lot more impressive to me this time. I have heard a little bit. I've heard all the Beatles albums. This is me doing a rerun of them. I wish there were more bands like the Beatles today and not all this crappy rap music that is more horrible. Listen to more rap music. You might not like... I'm assuming you have only heard a lot of the popular trap stuff that's gotten popular and stuff like that. And if that... I get if that's not up your alley. But there's plenty of great rap albums that came out this year. The new Clips album's fucking amazing. If you like some jazz-infused rap, the new McKinley-Dixon is pretty fucking incredible. Kendrick Lamar put out a very thought-provoking, introspective piece with GNX last year. Something more conceptual, you can listen to Chromacopia. Don't be a rap denier. There's plenty of incredible stuff out there. Be open-minded. There is so much incredible shit in rap music. Do not let just the most popular shit cloud your judgment of it. Dig deeper. There is good shit out there. I say don't let the most popular shit for you, and then I talk about fucking Tyler, the Creator, and Kendrick Lamar. But genuinely, I will never understand rap deniers. There is so much good rap music out there. Anyway, yeah. This album, it's slightly grown on me. It's fun. It's chill. I can't say I'm head over heels for this shit. I can't say that this re-listen made me absolutely fucking fall in love with this era of the Beatles or anything like that. But it's solid. Some catchy tracks. A couple of songs that I did find myself genuinely kind of loving, particularly A Taste of Honey, that I thought was a pretty fantastic track and a pretty immense statement considering it's this era of the band. But besides that, songs that range from being meh to okay. And you know what? For an album that was recorded in a single day, that was meant to be the Beatles proving themselves for the first time, getting an album that I think is okay, I think is a pretty big feat. I think that's not something I should turn my nose up at or anything like that. Genuinely, very respectable effort. I am going to run the numbers, and I will tell you what my score for the album is this time around. Ladies and gentlemen, my original score for this album was a flat 6 out of 10, and my updated score for this album is a 6.6 out of 10. It's gone from a flat 6 to a solid 6. Not the biggest difference, not the most crazy, perspective-altering change on this album or anything like that, but it is growth, and I can say that this album this time around was a little more interesting and was a little more fun, and I can say that I'm glad to have returned to this and been given a different perspective, especially considering a lot of my original feelings on this track. Like this time around, I gave Chains a 7. Originally, I gave it a 4. Taste of Honey went from like a flat 7 to a high 8. Stuff like that, where I can just respect some of these songs more now, and my perspectives have shifted a little bit on the individual tracks, even if it hasn't shifted too much on the album on the whole. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think of this album down below and how it compares to other Beatles albums for you. Thank you very much to Chivo for editing this video. He edited a bunch of the old Beatles reactions. He edited a whole bunch of the Beatles solo reactions, and he's editing all of these new Beatles reactions as well. So yes, massive thank you to him. Link to his album of the year is in the description. Stay tuned. We're going through the entire discography all throughout the month of January. Every couple days there's going to be new Beatles vids posted back to back to back to back. So yes, definitely stay tuned for those. And yeah, I will see you all for part 2 where we listen to With the Beatles. Bye bye.